So this is my demo for my image classifier web service. And at a high level, what we have here is an image classifier taken from Hugging Face, which is this guy right here. We've essentially just deployed that on AWS SageMaker and built a web service around it so that users can sort of interact with the endpoint and get their images classified. So to step a level deeper into the granularity here, I'm going to show you or walk you through the diagram rather. So you can see the user here, that's you. If you want to put an image into the web service, you're going to click on this link that's hosted by App Runner, and I'll show you the link in a little bit. That's going to be built with a backend of Flask. That image data is going to be encoded and sent to an AWS Lambda function, which does a couple of things here. So the first thing it's going to do is invoke that model's endpoint. That endpoint data becomes available to the Lambda function, and then finally the Lambda function sends that result back to the user. So I could start by showing you how this is deployed, and this is the script that makes that happen. As we can see, the name here matches this one, and there is really tight integration between AWS SageMaker and Hugging Face. So if you pretty much just click on this and adjust it as you need to, it becomes pretty much trivial to deploy a model such as this one. And as we can see, this is the actual endpoint that we are interacting with. Next, I can take you through the actual application itself. We have a couple of code space secrets in this environment, but on the App Runner environment, they are actually environment variables just to kind of keep everything streamlined and ensure security, of course. The main route that we're working with here is the predict route, where obviously it's a post request because we're sending the image to the web service. We take that image, we read it in, we encode it in base64 format, and that is essentially what's passed to the Lambda function. Now, at this point, we're going to switch over to the Lambda function. I can show you kind of what happens next in the process there. We create a SageMaker client. The endpoint name is stored as an environment variable here as well. And we decode the data that we get from the previous code and invoke the endpoint with it. We get the result back, and then that's what's returned to the user, or rather returned to the rest of the code that's going to kind of format it for the user. So this sort of just takes that output that we get from the Lambda function, cleans it up a little bit, parses through it, and then we get one of our templates rendered here. And we do have one more route for a health check, just in case I want to change the app runner to do an HTTP health check later on. So the actual app itself, well, it's rolling back right now, so I'm going to have to check that out, but there is a continuous delivery pipeline set up here. I can show you pretty much just what this looks like. So this is, again, hosted by App Runner. We just click on the link. I have a picture that I pre-picked of a tiger. We're going to open that. It shows you a little preview, and then we're going to predict on that. So sometimes it takes longer than others, but as we can see, we get tiger, tiger cat, a couple other things here. So we get a few different results, and yeah, that's pretty much the tool so far. I think a couple next steps for something like this would be a step in between here that has an API gateway that actually sends the request to Lambda rather than the request just going to Lambda directly itself, because that can help increase some of the scalability as well as add an extra layer of security. Also, I would like to get this off of App Runner and onto something like Elastic Beanstalk or something, just so that I have a more granular level of control over what happens when we do need to scale with users. So I did not load test this because it wasn't really built for scale. But with something like Beanstalk, Elastic Beanstalk, it would be a lot more straightforward to set something like that up. So this is the crux of my project, and I hope you enjoyed.